Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to Product Club. We're really excited to have you here today. Thank you for joining us. All right, we see a few hand raises. If you already have some questions, we have a Q&A chat there. It says Q&A. Please feel free to start dropping your questions in the chat. As you're logging on, I have shared a few links that we'd love for you to explore that highlight all of the different things we have going on in the community right now. Please also feel free to share your introduction in the chat. Where are you all coming from? I know we have a pretty big global audience today, so we'd love to hear where you're coming from. Thank you, Christina, for jumping in and sharing from Chicago. Hopefully it's not too cold in Chicago. I know there's some snow on the East Coast. India, yay, we have our first global. Seattle. All right, thank you all for sharing your introductions. Let's keep them coming. If you're just joining us, I know we have a pretty large group today, so we're going to give it some time for everybody to get in and settled. I've dropped a few links in the chat that we encourage you to explore. It's all the latest things happening community-wide. We have a lot going on. We'd also love for you to share a quick introduction, say hello, where you're coming from. All right, New Jersey, University of Illinois, Ottawa. This is very exciting. Thank you everyone for sharing all your introductions in the chat. We're gonna go ahead and get started in a minute here. Again, if you're just joining us, I've dropped a few key links in the chat that we'd love for you to explore. We have some exciting things happening in our Pathfinder universe right now. I'll go ahead and just highlight a few of those things as people get logged in. We do have some new AI courses being offered through Automation Anywhere University. You can access those through the Pathfinder news link I shared. We also have a dev meetup coming up. I know several of you were able to join our Document Automation plus Gen AI product club about 2 months back. We're now going to be hosting a dev meetup. This is really an opportunity to dive into the technical heart of document automation and Gen AI. So I encourage you to attend that. And then we also have an exciting update. I know this has been a hot requested item, single sign up for our user groups and product clubs. So that has now been launched as well. So if you go RSVP for our February product club, you will automatically be registered for all of our remaining product clubs for the year. So one-time registration, really excited to get that off the ground. If you have feedback on that, definitely let us know.
Hey, Alison, sorry, I just see a screen saying Alison Abel has started screen sharing. I don't see a slide yet. Was that what you wanted?
Oh,
Now
yeah.
I now I can see the slide deck. Yep,
All right,
perfect.
perfect. Thank you. All right, thank you, audience, for jumping in and participating, even though I wasn't sharing my screen. I appreciate that. So now you probably all know what I'm talking about. So Pathfinder News, as I just mentioned, the key links are in the chat, so definitely feel free to check those out. Thank you for everyone that's adding your introductions as well to the chat. We're going to go ahead and get started very shortly here. Please check my time. We'll give it another minute for everybody to get logged on. All right. Thanks, Kate, for also sharing that update. All right. Got a few more people coming in. Those of us just joining again, I've shared some critical links in the chat. Feel free to explore those and add your welcome. All right, without further ado, I do want to make sure we maximize our time to have the critical conversation today on Automation Copilot for Automators. I do just have a few quick announcements that I want to share before we get started and have the fun of today. Let me go ahead and click my screen here. First of all, the link is in the chat already. We do have a community survey. We'd love to get your feedback. We're looking at making some critical changes across our community, and we want to make sure we're making those changes that most benefit you and give you the value you need out of our community. So I did share the link in the chat. I'll be sure to share it in our recap as well. But please do, if you have the time, take the time to share this feedback in our quick survey. Today, I'm really excited to jump in with these two amazing product leaders in the Automation Copilot for Automators. Just a few quick notes on Product Club. All of our sessions are recorded. All of the recaps can be found in our Pathfinder community. Again, those links are shared in that chat, that first chat that I shared. The chat is open. One thing that we'd prefer, if possible, is that you use the Q&A to add the questions that you have for our product leaders today. So there is a Q&A chat. We do have the other chat open though for open collaboration and feedback, so don't hesitate to use that as well. We'll be watching both areas. So as soon as you have questions, please feel free to jump in and share those in the Q&A and the chat. And then of course, feedback is a gift. We have a very, very short survey that we share at the end of this session. It's a one-click thing. Please give us the ranking for today. It's really helpful for us as we continue to build out this program. All right, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and take a moment here. One of my favorite things with Product Club is what I like to call our product leader sizzle. This is our opportunity to get to know our two great product leaders today and give them the chance to introduce themselves as well. So my first question, and these are a series of rapid fire questions. Pratoosh, I'm going to kick it off with you, and then we're going to hand the mic over. What is your current role at Automation Anywhere?
I'm a director of product at Automation Anywhere, primarily responsible for our generative AI strategy and the product roadmap.
All right. Nishikant, go ahead, jump in.
Yeah. So I'm the director at product management, and I primarily handle the developer experience, including anything that's meant to make life of developers faster or rather better.
All right. And one thing I just realized that I forgot to do is launch our first poll question. So as we're going through these rapid fire questions, I do want to go ahead and share that first poll that we have. Let's go ahead and launch it here. We'll be asking a series of poll questions throughout this experience. We do encourage you to participate. It's really helpful feedback for us. We actually take this feedback and utilize it for our product roadmap development. So please, please participate throughout this session. All right, so as you complete that poll, let's continue the rapid fire sizzle here. All right, Nishikant, I'm gonna switch it up here. When you were young, what was your dream job?
Actually, there's a twist, an interesting twist. I did want to become an engineer when I was just 7 to 8 years old. And you know what? I did become an engineer. And the twist is, as a child, I thought the engineer was the one who drives train engines.
Mm.
And that is what I wanted to become.
Okay, a train
But yes,
conductor.
yeah.
I love that. All right, Pratish, what about you?
Video gamer. That's it.
Video gamer, I love that. What was your favorite video game?
Super Mario and Contra. If anyone remembers those two games, they were like the really old arcade games, and I was just crazy about them.
I was big into Tetris during that time as well. So
Yeah.
actually, let's go ahead and put in the chat. What was everyone's favorite video game growing up? I'm kind of curious. What were the games that were popular during that time? All right, Pratish, going back to you. What's the best piece of career advice you've ever received?
Focus on building skill sets and never be afraid to put in the time.
Okay. Nishikant?
Focus on solving the problems for customers and not really looking at what you're building.
Okay. All right, now it's time for some fun. And this is for the audience as well. So we want to get audience participation in here. Ideal vacation spot, island vibes or big city adventures? You got to pick one, island vibes or big city adventures for your next vacation. Nishkamp, let's go with you first.
Island?
Island, okay. Pratish?
Same for me. Park me on a beach and I'm set.
I have to admit, I'm the same. I've always grown up near a beach, and I love a moment where we can just sit and hear the waves. All right, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hand the mic over to you both. As we start to get set up for our demo piece of the session today, I am going to share another poll question. So handing the mic over to you both. Go ahead and get started.
Thanks, Allison. Nishi, you want to share your screen?
Yep. Just a moment.
Awesome. All right. Thank you all for joining us today. In the next 30 minutes or so, what we'll do is we'll do a quick recap of Automation Success Platform to ensure everyone has a common understanding. And we'll talk about some of the new and exciting generative AI products that we have launched. Following that, we'll do a deep dive into Automator AI. Nishi will do an awesome demo of Automation Copilot for Automators. And I'm just looking at the poll results. Very insightful. We do have a trick response to it, but we'll come to it shortly. We'll also give you an insight on the product roadmap along with a few informative resources. So with that, let's dive in. So Automation Success Platform, which is what you see on your screen right now, is your existing A360 capability where you discover, build, and scale your automations. And what we are doing now is also making it your system of work for generative AI. So basically to be able to accelerate your productivity, drive ROI for your organizations, your stakeholders. And we're doing this in 3 ways. First, we are embedding custom trained and out-of-the-box models within our platform and products. Second, we are making our platform more open and extensible so that you can leverage any public or private large language model of your choosing. And third, we are building in guardrails to prevent misuse. And this is probably the most important aspect of any enterprise-grade platform to ensure that as you interact with AI models, having the right guardrails, making sure that you are using the system in the right manner, that it does not really get misused as you scale the capability across the organization. I think those are the most critical foundational pillars of driving an AI-based capability across any organizations. If you go to the next slide, Nishi. And to that effect, there are 3 products that we have launched. First is Automation Copilot for business users, which is where you can we can help scale personalized tasks like summarize a document, compose emails. This is an existing capability that's already available. It's been around for a couple of years. What we've done actually is augmented that with an ability for you to bring in any large language model, which is what I spoke about earlier in the Automation Success Platform. Today's session is focused more on the third pillar, so I'll not dwell too deep into it, but I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any. The second product is document automation. Now, again, document automation has been around for a while now, but what we've gone ahead and done, I would say a couple of months ago, is we have infused generative AI within document automation so that you can now basically digitize many more complex and unstructured documents like lab reports, bill of lading, contracts, and so on. And third, which is also the focus of today's conversation, is Automator AI, where the primary goal is to accelerate developers across the automation lifecycle. So let's see how we do that. If you go to the next slide. Thanks. All right, so a typical automation lifecycle is usually comprised of 4 key stages. You got your discovery and definition, where one identifies and analyzes and documents the business process, which is usually followed by the development stage, testing, acceptance, production support, and change management. Of course, this can vary based on every organization. There could be various nuances. You may have a smaller automation lifecycle. You can have more toll gates built into it. Every organization usually has a flavor which is more founded on the way they typically work. But broadly, the principles or the key stages remain the same. And in order to assist the development teams, what we are doing is we are building new products powered by generative AI so that COEs and business teams can accelerate discovery with Autopilot, reduce automation building, basically automation building time with Copilot for automators and suggest next actions, decrease time spent on testing or documentation, and improve SLA adherence by cutting down automation failures with generative recorder. All of these capabilities together basically make up what we are calling as Automator AI for cloud, which these capabilities are primarily available in cloud, which is why it's Automator AI for cloud. But essentially, all these are AI-infused capabilities which allow an automator or a developer to work across the automation lifecycle and accelerate their ability to drive return on automation. So let's go to the next slide. So with this full lifecycle approach, what we are creating is a flywheel effect, which allows, as I said, COEs to build faster with Automator AI. So Automator AI is really our vision of providing all those critical products and capabilities required by developers to build their automations or accelerate their automation program faster and better. So to go a little more granular, this includes Copilot for automators, which enables both professional and citizen developers to build their automations by simply describing them in natural language. Now, the poll question, like I said, was a twist because essentially when we look at the ability to accelerate developers, the product feature is typically called as Copilot for automators, which is really the natural language or the assistant that's available for developers to help them or really allow them to collaborate with AI and build their automations. But to really drive the true impact or the vision around how do we get a developer to how do we turn a developer into a superhero is really bringing that entire lifecycle approach together. So Copilot for Automators, as I said, it essentially enables our developers to build their automations, and we'll see this shortly in a demonstration that Nishi will be doing. Followed by that, we have Suggest Next Actions, which gives you contextual and real-time suggestions on completing your automation workflows. Both of these features, which is Copilot for Automators and Suggest Next Actions, went live just now in the month of January. These are both features are live today. Our customers can basically make use of them. They can try them out. Obviously, feedback, as Alison said, is a gift. We definitely look for more feedback. And there is a pretty strong roadmap that we continue to execute upon throughout the year around these two features, as well as everything else that you see over here. Moving further down, in our roadmap, we have plans to launch test and documentation generation capabilities to assist testing, explaining, and documenting your automation. So that's something that's further down in the roadmap. The generative recorder, this is something we've been talking about for a while in both internal and external communications. You basically have the ability, or your automations now have the ability to recover from point of failure and thereby reduce downtime. And this is a big deal for many COEs because especially when your automations break because your third-party application has undergone a change, something that you're using in your automation. Usually these changes happen without any early warning. That usually means that your automations break in production and somebody has to go fix them in as soon as possible because there could be an SLA compliance risk, or there could be some sort of risk event that can arise because these automations are not running. And that really creates a lot of pressure on the COEs or on the developers to go fix things as soon as possible. But with generative recorder, that basically means that your automations are able to recover from the point of failure. And this really is more of a resiliency play to ensure that automations are able to be executed successfully. But at the same time, it alleviates that pressure on the developer so that they can come back at a more comfortable time or take a little more time, basically get some more leeway in going and fixing their automations because the third-party application has undergone a change. And finally, with Autopilot supported by Process Discovery and COE Manager, you can now turn your discovered processes into pre-built automations. This is, again, something that's coming down in the roadmap. You're targeting this to be available before mid of this year. That's the broad time frame. So hopefully this gives you an insight into how Automator AI will help you accelerate and amplify your return on automation. We are definitely excited with this product lineup and looking forward to seeing our customers, basically all of you, succeed with them and obviously give us feedback. I'm going to now turn it over to Nishi to give a demonstration and then talk further about the product capabilities and any insights that he can share around those. Nishi, over to you.
Yep. Awesome, Pratyush. I think that's a perfect segue onto the demo. And we'll quickly look at how Marcus, who is our hero, the developer for today's session, right, for this demo, who has received a change request from his inventory management team to make some changes to the automation that he has already built. And let's look at how he's able to use Copilot for Automators as well as the Suggest Next Actions to quickly, let's say, make the changes as per the change request and also ensure they are as per the quality. I'm going to switch my screens onto a live system. Just a moment.
As the screen is being switched, just a quick reminder, thank you for those who have already jumped in and added your questions to the Q&A. Please use that Q&A for questions. I see a few jumping into the chat. We'll be sure to answer those as well, but the Q&A is the best place.
All right. All right, so here we are onto the Process Composer. If you have not used Process Composer, it's a no-code, low-code tool that you can use to orchestrate your entire business process automation. So you can bring in your bots, forms, validation forms, or approval forms, your process, processes, or even document validation, and build the complete orchestration as per your business needs. So here you can see Marcus has already built out the order management process. And he has got a change request to ensure he also sends the catalog through an email as per the rejection process. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on this Copilot that you see on top right of the screen and key in the instructions. So as per the change request that he has received, he's going to key in the instructions. And the instruction is basically to add a step for send catalog process and email that to the inventory management team using a bot called send notifications. So as you see here, it has perfectly added a process that sends the catalog and also sends the notification, right? So that's a perfect way of building or making changes to the process by just giving the instructions in form of natural language. And the best part about this is whenever the instructions are given, they actually do ground all the instructions as per the automation entities and ensures that the output you get is always related to automation. There are inbuilt guardrails. What it means is if you give any instruction that's not related to automation, it gracefully rejects them. And whenever it gives an output which is related to automation, it also asks for a feedback where you can give the feedback in form of yes and no. Right? And you can continue to make changes as and when you need, either by dragging and dropping all the elements that you see on the left panel, or just give the instructions in form of natural language. And the other good part is this is a non-intrusive assistant. What it means is you can use it only when you want and just follow the usual process that you would need to follow or you usually follow if you do not want to use the assistant. Now, this is where we saw how he was able to give the instructions in form of natural language and quickly make edits to the process, right? So here, there is also a need for Marcus to ensure there are some additional changes being done to the check entitlement bot. So let me just quickly jump onto the bot here. Just a moment. Yeah. So here we have the bot where again, here he has already built out a few things where he is authenticating the Salesforce connection, getting the records from Salesforce, and also to ensure that the content that he's getting out of this entitlement is something that is readable and also something he can make sense out of. He's using generative AI because generative AI packages, typically like Vertex AI, will help him to consolidate the content from the Salesforce and also give it in a format that the users can read. Here we have already used Vertex AI. So let's see how he's able to give further instructions and build on top of this. This time, Marcus is going to give a little long instruction. So the instruction is basically to check whether the prompt response from the Vertex AI is allowed. And if it is, then it's going to connect to the database server, check for the quantity limit, and also ensure that it is able to read the content from the database. And if not, it's basically going to open the Excel from a particular location that we have defined here, and also set the order ID back to the record. Again, here, as I said, when the instructions are given, it grounds these instructions as per the automation entities, sends the prompts into the AI model, and then gives back the output in form of JSON, which is rendered onto this canvas that you see here. And based on the length of the instructions that you give, there is always a change in the response time. So the longer the instructions, definitely it's going to take a few additional seconds, whereas small instructions will be much quicker. All right. While this is happening, let me just show you the generative AI packages that we have in place. So if you have not seen this already, we already have out-of-the-box generative AI packages to use Amazon Bedrock related actions. We also have Google Cloud to use the Vertex AI, Microsoft Azure OpenAI, and also OpenAI. All right, so we have the automation already built in here. So as you see here, based on the instruction, it was able to check the response from the Vertex AI, check for the conditions, and connect to the database and read the content from it, as well as if it was not satisfying the condition, it is opening the Excel and finding the next empty cell and setting the data with the order ID. Right? So automatically based on the instruction that I've given, it knows where to add the if-else conditions. And in fact, we can also give instructions where we can just ask it to ensure that if there is an error, make some adjustments, and it would automatically add the error handling steps. Now this is good, right? Marcus has been able to make changes as per the change request, which usually would have taken him from few days to few weeks. Here, you saw how he was able to build all this in just few minutes. And just few more additional details. Now, Copilot Assistant will give you all the right structure of the bot or the process. However, As an additional step, they can verify if the properties are as per the instructions. Else, they can also update the properties and add if anything is missing. So they can just continue to build on top of this and make sure it's as per the requirement. So in our case, Marcus has added these instructions through the Copilot. However, he's not sure whether it is as per the best practices, and he somehow feels that okay, there may be some additional actions that may be needed to close the loop with respect to the operations of Excel. So to help him do that, we have other capability called suggestion extractions. Again, this is a generative AI based capability which looks at the entire context of the bot that has been built, and based on the context it gives the next set of actions that logically make sense. So in this case, since we have opened the Excel cell, it is suggesting Excel at once closed, which is a good suggestion. And maybe the other things, database connect related actions, maybe I'm not interested to add them, I can skip them and just add on to the automation. So this way, not just the actions that are logically making sense to the bot logic, but also the ones that are as per the best practices also are suggested, and those can be added here. So that was a quick demo just to show how Marcus has been able to cut down his time to make any enhancements onto the auto management process from few days to just few minutes.
And Nishi, probably a good time to take a small pause and answer some of the questions, or at least the recurring
Sure.
questions that I'm getting.
Sure.
So there was a question around why is it named as Copilot, and are there any limitations and scenarios that we can use Copilot? And an extension of that, what's the accuracy level of Copilot? One thing to position this carefully is it's called Copilot for a reason, right? It's not replacing a developer. And none of the intelligent automation assistants that you see out there in the market as well have the capability to replace a developer. At the end of the day, the developer knows what exactly is the automation supposed to be built for, whether it's working fine or not, whether it meets the business requirements or not. Our goal with Copilot and broader automated AI capabilities, sorry, my video wasn't turned on. The broader automated AI capabilities is to be able to accelerate a developer. And that's been the consistent theme or the consistent talk track that you would hear from us, which is making sure that developer has the right tools and capabilities to accelerate across the automation lifecycle. Yeah, the example that we showed may not necessarily be a days or weeks worth of change, but it should at least give you a sense of how you can use Copilot to build out those capabilities. The one thing you would have noticed in the way or the prompting techniques that we have right now is it does require you to be slightly more nuanced, at least logically construct how you want your automation to look like. Whether it's a change or building a new automation, you do need to be a little more nuanced around sequentially or logically what are those broad steps that you want your automation to execute or to comprise, or how Copilot should construct that automation. Over the course of time, over the course of the roadmap that we have planned for this year and early next year, we will provide abilities to make that more nuanced or make that more abstract, which means that you as a user, as a developer, do not need to spell out every single thing for Copilot. There are areas where you do need to do that today. There are areas where the abstraction ability is already available. We're going to make that more broad-based available, which means that you can potentially go and say, build out an order management automation. It has a clear idea of how to do that. It will get into a conversation with you and help you build out that automation as a whole. Like I said, it's an intelligent automation assistant. It doesn't replace a developer. All the capabilities that you have in your workspace today, like undo, redo, code analysis, all those remain intact. Eventually, Copilot will be able to interact with all of them, but you as a developer still have the full control. Easiest way to think about this is as a pair programmer. If you have ever worked in a pair programming construct, you typically have one or two users who collaborate together to build out the overall automation. It's the same aspect or the same thought process behind it. Sorry, Nishi, go ahead.
Sure. Do we take a few more questions and then jump onto the other
Yeah, I'm just doing
slides?
a quick scroll through. What else do we have? There was a comment
Accuracy level.
around, oh yeah, accuracy level. That's again a good question, right? Like I said, it's ultimately developer who's gauging whether the automation meets the business requirements. Your accuracy has to be compared against is the automation doing what the business actually wanted, what was prescribed in the PDD or the STD documentation. That's essentially where the accuracy comparison comes from. From our standpoint, the way we are looking at accuracy is that we are making meaningful improvements in Copilot for automators and suggesting actions to improve its ability to understand the prompt or understand the context of the automation and give you an output, which could be an automation or a suggestion, which is more relevant or more founded in the context of what the automation is all about. So as I said, the instruction that you're giving today or the prompt that you're giving today is obviously one step in that direction. The context of the automation or the automation that you're building, that is the second aspect of what's going into the models today. And then as we improve these models and make them more abstract, that's going to be a focus area, which is making sure that you do not have to do a lot of prompting, but still be able to produce a more complete and more relevant automation based on what you're asking it to do. So, I mean, that's the way I would position it, which is making sure that our owners has been, or at least the vision has been, like I said, make sure the developer has the ability to decide what's required and what's not required. And over the course of time, we'll make it more easy to use. There was a comment around why Automation Copilot is very primitive in terms of UI. That's a great comment. I would love to engage with you to get that, or at least unpack that comment a little more. What kind of capabilities would you want to see in the UI? If you can answer the poll, that will be helpful. Or if we can engage with you, please do drop in a line, or just drop in your coordinates, and I would be happy to engage with you to get that feedback and see what we can improve over there.
All right, if you guys don't mind, Nishikant, do you want to just wrap up what you're going to share and then we can answer these final questions? Sure. Audience, I did launch a poll. It was really timely as we were talking about roadmap. Just want to quickly emphasize, this is your opportunity for your voice to be heard. Both of these individuals are eager to hear your voice. So please utilize that poll question to share any ideas, thoughts, feelings about Automation Copilot for automators. Happy to put it in the poll, put it in the chat. We really, really want to make sure we're building what is going to be valuable to you. So utilize and take advantage of this time to share those ideas. And then please also drop any of your remaining questions in the chat. We still have some time left after these final slides to answer those as well. All right, Mike, back to you.
Yep, thank you. All right, so after the demo, let me just quickly summarize what capabilities does the Copilot for automators and suggest next actions have, right? So we looked at how we can create or edit the automations in Process Composer as well as in the bot editor. And not just that, we can also map the dependencies with any other automation entities such as bots, forms, or other sub-processes. And we can also create variables, and not just that, we can also update some of the variables, attributes that we have within the bot editor. And guardrails in place, right? So that's very important because we have to ensure that any instruction that's not related to automation is not accepted. So it gracefully rejects them and also gives a good message and accepts the feedback. In terms of suggest next actions, obviously you saw how the suggestions are displayed based on the context of what the bot is doing. And even within suggestions, let's say if there are certain set of packages that the developers do not have access to, so there are guardrails in place that the suggestions are always based on the packages that the developers have access to. That's already in place. And if you're not happy with the suggestions, there is always an option to regenerate suggestions and see if that makes sense. And many more options and features that it will come in the roadmap. All right, back to you, Alison.
All right, so we did have a few remaining questions that I want to be sure we get to as well. And I think these came in after you guys had answered the other questions. So Jeff asked, if we have our own instance of an LLM model in your listing, do we need any special training or specific instance so it can build AI code as you've demoed?
No. The product strategy that I spoke about earlier when we showed the automation success platform approach and how we are going about it, these are Copilot for automators, a broader automator AI suite of capabilities is really where we are infusing large language models, both external and internal models, into the product, which is why it's not a bring your own LLM scenario. It's essentially making sure that, because at the end of the day, what we're trying to make sure is that the product works for your requirements. So it's not exactly bring your own model. Like I said, it's multiple models at play. We have our own custom tuned models that we have built in and infused within the product. They run in tandem with external models, external large language models, which are currently SaaS-based, which is why Automator AI as a whole is a cloud-only product. I did notice that there was a comment that someone's pretty disappointed. I completely understand, but at the same time, the what every company is today evaluating is figuring out what does the next 10 years for them look like? How does their cloud strategy really get impacted based on their intent or their roadmap around adopting AI within their ecosystem? And this innovation is largely going to happen first in cloud. On-prem compatibility will come up later. That's only a matter of time. But as of today, that's where the innovation is happening. So that's something to bear in mind.
All right, the next question. Will you be linking automation AI to process discovery?
Yes, that's what Autopilot is all about, which is, discover your processes and process discovery, and then be able to export that PDD and the supporting documentation or supporting files into our H360 control room, and then use the Autopilot capability to convert the discovered process into an automation. So that's something you'll see by mid of this year.
Shameless plug, our next product club meeting by chance happens to be on Autopilot. So that listing is live on our community events page. If you scroll all the way to the top of the chat, those links will be shared. I'll also share them towards the end here. But yes, our next session is going to be on that exact thing, Autopilot. All right, can you help us understand if it's possible or how it was made to send a text and get code for it? Okay, so I think people are just asking for a little bit more understanding of how it works to get the text and the code in our Automation 360 tool. Not sure if you guys see that question.
I saw that. I would really refer everyone back to our security and architecture documentation that's actually going to go live today, very timely. But that will explain the data flow as to how we make or how we take in a prompt and produce an automation on the back of it, or produce a set of recommendations or suggestions on the back of it. That should ideally answer all the questions. There's obviously multiple things and multiple models at play, which is why it's not one of the most common questions we get is, can I just bring in my own LLM, or can I have an open source LLM that I use? Can't you just use that? The answer is no, because at the end of the day, accuracy and quality matters. Not every LLM is built equal. The kind of quality or the kind of outputs that you would get from a Llama 2 is drastically different from a GPT-4 or a Google Gemini Pro. So that's something to be mindful of, and that's something I would encourage everyone to explore further before they start embarking on building their own automation use cases. This is more from the perspective of using large language models in a BYO LLM scenario and then building their own automations around it. So be aware that not all LLMs are equal. That's why, from a product standpoint, our goal is to ensure that we're using the best model that suits a purpose, not necessarily any model that's available or compatible for various reasons. And that's why it's not something that that you can just plug in an LLM, nor is it that you have just one LLM at play. We actually have a whole architecture built around it.
All right, we had another question pop in here earlier in the slide deck. There was a single line talking about Automation Copilot for automators generating documentation of a task bot. Could you preferably demo that, or at least speak to that output of that functionality, what that actually looks like? And I know time is tight here, so maybe just share a few notes and we can also take that back as feedback for future sessions too.
Yeah, we can't demo that right now, but Nishi, do you want to talk about it shortly, or
Sure.
yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I can talk about that. Yeah, so as Pratyush said, we cannot demo. That's in the works and in fact is in the roadmap. But in short, what it does is, let's say you build the automations and you want to quickly generate a document to summarize what the automation is about. You can use this tool. We have understood from customers that today you have to manually document based on the metadata that you can look at, and then create a document out of it, right? So here we will use generative AI to automatically scan the metadata of the automation and generate a summary out of it. So it's going to be like a documentation that you can use as a reference for your subsequent, let's say, enhancements or changes that you would have to do as part of your maintenance.
All right, and it looked like that last question was getting answered. Let's just go ahead and answer it live since we do have a few minutes. If it's your own LLM, or if it's your own LLM,
Yeah,
yeah, I think we sort of answered this already, correct?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
our own LLM that we have built using our anonymized and aggregated metadata. There's no linkages to any customer data. At the same time, this is a generalized model, which means that in your environment, in your cloud environment, when you go and build an automation using Copilot for Automators or suggesting actions, that's completely personalized and constrained within your own environment. No other customer of automation anywhere will be able to see that. It does not feed back into Copilot for Automators for any future training. We ensure that there are sufficient aggregation, anonymization, redaction that happens that we never end up using our customer data for any sort of model training. Again, this is something that's explained very detailed in our security architecture documentation. So you can refer over there.
All right, and I want to end with this last question because this is great, and thank you, Will, for sharing it. If you have any additional questions, drop them in the chat. We will be sure to answer them in our recap. But Will also asked a really good question that I think everyone's thinking about, right? Question for a future session, but quickly becoming a cause for concern. Third-party 2FA, MFA is starting to become a showstopper. Would very much like to know how the automation industry can work around this as it becomes more prevalent.
All right, so yeah, shall I take it?
Go for it.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that's a great question because this is something, for example, two-factor authentication has become a norm, right? So definitely automation industry is catching up, and you may have already seen some improvements in terms of general security enhancements, right? We have brought in OAuth 2 based security wherever possible, and that's going to be like prevalent in all the areas within automation area. So definitely we are working towards bringing all the security controls in place, all the types of authentication that can be added to a different set of automation elements.
All right, Pratish, do you have anything you want to add to that? This is our final question live. Again, just want to reiterate, we will go back through all of these questions. Make sure you have responses in our recap, which we'll share in our community as well.
I'm just scrolling through any open questions. There was one on, I think there was a question on generative recorder around the auto healing, auto resume capabilities. That's again a feature. I'm not sure if we have done that in the product club,
But it's
Allison,
on
but
our list.
it's
I
on our
think that's
list.
going to
Awesome.
come, where are we, March, April, maybe May, I think is where that's scheduled. So it's
Cool.
coming.
Great. So, Umesh, you can get more details once we schedule that session. Definitely encourage you to chime in on or dial into that session when we schedule that. And I'm just reading this question live. That's a good animation on the documentation part. Can we expect something in future where we enter the requirement document and Copilot already builds a skeleton of the automation where the developer can refine it in future? Absolutely. And that's all I can say at this point. It is something we are evaluating.
All right, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and need to share my screen, so I need to steal that back. I just have a few quick reminders to share. As I mentioned, we will have a recap that will be dropped in our community within the next week, so please be sure to check that out. We pin it usually to the latest news section. I also dropped a bunch of key links as well, just reminders of what I shared earlier. We have a getting started guide. We pulled together all the resources that we currently have on Automation Copilot for automators, so that can be found in those links. A quick reminder, we do have that community survey. Really would appreciate that feedback and appreciate the time taking that survey. And then also just want to reiterate our Pathfinder news. This is a new monthly update that we share in our community that highlights everything across the ecosystem, everything from our events and our content. We have a lot coming out on all of these great new features and products. And then, as I mentioned, our next session is scheduled for March 12th. That event is listed and you are able to RSVP. Again, a quick note on the RSVP. We took your feedback and we have implemented it. You now are able to sign up one time for all of the product club sessions. So we made that a lot easier. So that starts with this meeting. So you do need to go into the March meeting and RSVP, and that will set you up for the rest of the sessions for the year. But that session will be on autopilot. As always, please, please, please don't hesitate to share your feedback. Feedback is a gift, as we've mentioned. Thank you so much for your time. And we appreciate Pratish and Nikshikant for joining us as well. Thank you both. And I hope you all have a wonderful day today.
Thank you all. Thanks for your time.
Everyone.
Thanks, Allison.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.